to Books Unbound, the podcast where we unbind books to get to their hearts with your hosts, us. It's Ariel and
Raeleen. Hello.
Hello. I see we have the iconic Princeton sweater
It's true.
on.
It's in the house. I'm showing it to the video peeps.
It's so cute, Raeleen.
I know. I love the little chairs and the little trees, and it kind of doesn't show up as the right color on screen, but it is like a minty green.
It's
it looks
definitely
white.
a light minty color.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
It's
I love
very
it.
Cute. Yeah, I also got it in large, so it's like nice and big. It's very soft.
Is it
on
kind
the
of
inside.
textured? Is it kind of soft or
it's
terry
kind of
cloth
like,
or something?
It's almost like a kind of like a heather situation where it's like white and mint mixed together, and it's kind of like crunchy. It's like a crunchy knit.
Classic crunch.
Instead of a smooth one.
When I buy a sweater, the thing that I most want is a crunch.
Yeah, that's what we go for. Soft on the outside, crunchy on the outside.
So, I'm going to start us off with some information. Last week, listen, okay? Raeleen has a book. In that journal, we write notes for what we have to talk about the week next week. So we'll record an episode. This is behind the scenes. We'll record our episode, and then we stop recording, and then we go straight into our weekly meeting, which is how this machine runs, right? Like if we didn't have the meeting, we'd fall apart. Totally. And so we have a meeting every week where we're like, what's coming up? What do we have to talk about? There's like stuff we have to do. Like we have to name the episode and we have to get all the links for the description. There's all that sort of admin stuff. And there's certain tasks I do while Raeleen's doing other tasks. It's a whole thing. But one of the things we do is, okay, is there anything coming up that we have to talk about next week? Let's make sure to write that down in your book.
Yeah.
And so at the beginning of every recording, I then ask Raeleen, is there anything written in your book? Usually no, but sometimes there is. And last week, we had to mention the audiobook. And I was like, cool, perfect. And then we start recording, totally forgot.
Just gone.
Just gone. And then it was at the very end of the podcast where I was like, damn, I was supposed to talk about that. And so we talked about it.
Oops.
But it needs to be at the beginning.
Yeah, I worked hard on that.
We're excited about it. Yeah, like, it's so cool. So, basically, as you guys know, we recorded 2 audiobooks in the last few years. One was Animal Farm and one was The Great Gatsby. And releasing them was really fun and cool. And we're proud of how that project all turned out. And so then we were thinking, you know what if we did a couple more? Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
And so, Raeleen has started us off for the year. Basically, I think we talked about both of us releasing one this year.
Yeah,
and so Raeleen has started us off with The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
Put the song, Siege. So it is scored and beautiful by CJ, but it was totally recorded and edited by Raeleen.
Yeah. So I did my best to put all the songs in the right spot. It was tough. I've never had to do that before, so it was interesting to play around with that, but I had some good spooky tunes to work with, so
it's really cool. And then we have beautiful artwork by the amazing Maddie Vian, who has been doing our artwork for the podcast for the last few years. So it looks great. It sounds great. Raeleen learned a lot of nautical terms.
God, it was hard. Oh my gosh. This is only my second audiobook I've ever had to record. With The Great Gatsby,
Yeah.
There were a few words where I was like, I don't really know how to pronounce it, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Because it was unedited. It was very low key. But with this one, I was like, oh, I really don't know how to say, like, I want to say 20% of like the words in this book. Like there was a lot. It felt like so much. I was constantly pausing, looking things up. I'm like, okay, cool. That's how you say that. Like there was a lot of really strange words that I have never heard before.
So it's a vocabulary lesson as well, educational. So it is available now. And we will link to it in our description, but we will also, it's on our Patreon. So basically, if you're a patron, you already get access to it. Lucky patrons, my God, to be a patron, what a time. But if you're not a patron, you can just buy it as a one-off thing. it's $6. But oh, what do you see there? Becoming a patron is only $5? Maybe that would be a bargain.
Almost seems more worth it.
Could get a lot of other access to things as well.
Like other audiobooks or whatever.
Yeah, you could listen to all 3 of our audiobooks if you become a patron for only a low price of only $5. Wow. I don't know. I guess I would do that.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool idea.
Pretty cool. So now we've told you about that. Now you know. Let's talk about what you're up to, Raeleen. What did you get up to this weekend?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I feel like I did basically nothing throughout all of the months of like June and July, and now I'm like, okay, I want to do something like every weekend is kind of where the next few weekends are at. So this obviously last weekend I did a little road trip to Princeton, and then over the weekend we just got back yesterday. We went on a little like 2.5-day road trip up to the Okanagan. So we went past Princeton and went up into the Okanagan to visit with Kyle's parents, and we stayed with them, and we just kind of hung out. Like we went up on Friday night and we left Sunday at around noon yesterday. So we weren't there for that long, but we had a full Saturday of relaxation. So we just kind of sat by the lake because they live very, very close to a private beach, which was really nice. And so we spent some time there. Luckily, there was no fires driving up because when we went to Princeton last weekend, there was some smoke. And so I was like, uh-oh. But this time there was not a sign of smoke. Although when we were there, we were by the lake, there was a house on fire across the lake. So
oh my God.
I don't know what happened. I tried to look it up, but there was no information. But it was kind of scary. We were just swimming and we were like, that house is on fire. Well, luckily they put it out pretty quickly, but yeah, like it's scary out here. There's like lots of crazy stuff going on at this end of Canada. But luckily we were okay. So that was all good. So we kind of just hung out, did a lot of swimming. We like played with volleyballs in the water, which was fun. So I'm like, my body is sore because I was like punching volleyballs for about an hour, which was really fun, and just swimming and having a good time. But also I rode on an e-bike for the first time. An electric bike, which was fun. I never really knew how they worked, but Kyle's parents each have one. So we were like, let's go for a ride. And so it's kind of cool. For those who don't know, it's just like an electric bike. You still pedal, but when you pedal, it like activates movement, like electric movement, like it helps push you along. And so it was very strange because I would just be coasting and then I would start pedaling and all of a sudden I would go woo and zoom away. And it was weird, but it was fun. Like I was able to go up a hill quite easily. Like it still took effort, but I was zooming up a hill, which was very fun. So that was cool. Got to do that.
Pedaling starts a motor. I would have thought that pedaling like charged up the motor so that when you're not pedaling it pushes
and it wasn't. Well, there's also a throttle, so you can make it go without pedaling. And there was like 5 different levels of power, and so I was just going on like level 3 power, but then as we started to ride more I was like, I need level 5 power. I want to go faster than this. So awesome. It was fun. I was going like 34 kilometers per hour was my top speed, but it can go faster than that apparently. That was just how fast I went.
I've never been on an e-bike either. Now you've made me realize.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And when I was a kid, I used to ride an electric scooter a lot. Yes. And that thing, you didn't have to use any effort for that. It was so fun. No. You could just rev it up. But yeah, so that was really fun. It was nice to get outside and like do stuff. And the weather was pretty good. Like it was around 30 degrees both of the days that we were there. But it wasn't like hot enough to feel like we were dying. You know, it was just it was just right. And we also played a lot of cards, which was fun. Like I don't often do that, but it just kind of made sense. It was like, you know, hanging out with a group of people, a group of adults. What else are we going to do other than play cards and go to the beach, right? So it was fun. We just kind of had a calm time and it was very chill. And then we got home and it's raining today. It's literally raining right now. Oh. And I couldn't be happier. Remember how last week I was like, oh, I can't wait until I can wear my cozy Princeton sweater. Yeah. And now here I am, a week later, the happiest I've ever been. I can't believe it's raining. It's just so joyful.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where as an adult, you very much are like, we needed this rain.
Exactly. I literally saw a house on fire like 2 days ago, so it feels good to have rain where I am. Like it makes me feel much better.
That's so scary. Yeah. Yeah, like this last year Nova Scotia had crazy fires, and so now there's like a lot of fire bans. Like you're not allowed to burn, even to do like a campfire.
Yeah, we get
in
those
your backyard
here every summer now. There's always a campfire ban.
Yeah, but so does it work the same way in BC now? Because what they've instituted here is basically every single day they update the website at 2 p.m. And so it's like every day is different. And so at 2 p.m. you log on, and then there's like green, you can do whatever you want. Yellow, you can burn after 7 p.m.
Oh.
I'm not sure why that changes things, but okay. And then red means you can't burn at all. And then every county has its own restriction. So it's every single day is updated.
Yeah, it might be. Honestly, I haven't looked that closely into it, but I'm pretty sure we have fire bans like from probably June straight through to the end of August. Like, I think it's just a standard thing now. I could be wrong, but that's the vibe I get. And like, they have signs, like as you're driving through towns, you'll see the green,
arrows,
yellow, orange, red, and like it's always in the green when it's like the spring, but as soon as summer hits, I feel like it's always in the red. Like, I don't know if that's true or if that's just what I've been seeing, but yeah, it's kind of just assumed now, like if it's the summertime, you're not lighting a fire if you're going camping. Like, that's just the reality of it, which was what made it nice that we went camping in April. Like, I went camping back in April with my friends, and that was nice because we were able to have a fire. It was the first time I've had a fire camping in probably like a decade. Like, I feel like I haven't had a fire, and that just changes camping. It really does.
It really changes camping. Because when I think about camping, I think about sitting next to a fire.
Yeah.
And you're cooking stuff, you're just enjoying the fire, you're walking around looking for wood, you're getting a little too thoughtful as you stare into the flames, you're having funny, deeper conversations than you usually would. Like, that is, I mean, I feel like if I said to someone, draw a campfire, or draw a campsite, you draw a tent and a campfire. Like, those are the two things you draw.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, we agree.
We respect the ban.
Shouldn't. Yeah, we respect it. We're just saying it's different, and we're like living through these changes.
Exactly. It just sucks how things have changed. Like the world and the climate and everything. It's just like, oh dear, things have really changed since we were little.
It has. I was gonna say, speaking of changes since we were little, but I don't actually have a segue for that. I do respect and love a segue, but that one doesn't make any sense. Yeah, speaking of changes, I've been watching the Olympics. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I'm loving the Olympics. I love the Olympics. I know there are some people who are very grumpy about the Olympics, and I know that because I see them online, and they're like, they just seem furious, and I'm like, why do you hate it so much?
Don't watch it.
I know, this is what's so strange. Like, you don't have to watch it. It's only a month every 4 years. Like, it's okay.
It's a nice treat for me. Like, I never watch TV, but what was actually nice about being with Kyle's parents is they have a TV that just like was playing the Olympics the whole time we were there. And I was like, oh, I wouldn't normally have that just on, but it was so nice. Like, we'd be sitting out just like eating breakfast or whatever, and I'd be like, gymnastics! Like, I'm really deep into the gymnastics right now because today is the men's final. Team finals today, and then tomorrow is the women's team final, and then there's a bunch of individual things coming up, which by the time this episode comes out, I'm sure they'll all be over, but I'm just so excited for Simone Biles.
I know.
I'm so happy.
Canada's made it into the finals for both, right? For women and men.
Oh, did they? It's funny, I watched a bit of it yesterday, but we were so like in and out, and we drove home yesterday that I haven't really had a chance to actually look at what the results were.
Yeah, well, I also have been... Okay, so I wanted to say that my favorite sport to watch so far has been archery.
Ooh, I haven't seen that yet.
I didn't, like, basically, I'm sure it's different in every country, like, how you can stream it or whatever.
Yeah.
But here we have the CBC, and they're streaming everything. And the way that it works is that, like, there's all sorts of different streams, which is so much better than it was when we were kids in a way, because I remember when you were a kid and you watched the Olympics, you would just have to be on the CBC's channel and they could like watch part of a sport and then be like, man, we're switching to another one. And
yeah,
you're like,
it was so limited because there's only one stream.
Yeah, it's only 1 or 2 channels that are showing it, right? And they still have to do their other programming like the news and stuff, so it wasn't actually 24/7. But now you can just see like all the different sports, and it's like right now, like right before we started recording this, it was like archery and canoe slalom was on, and I don't know, there was like 7 different sports that were all happening at the same time, and you can just click through to which one you want to see. So anyways, I didn't like, there's a couple of sports I really want to watch. that I'm like intentionally making sure I don't miss. One of them is artistic gymnastics because it's so fun.
Yeah.
One of them is sport climbing, which is just rock climbing, but for some reason is called sport climbing.
What other kind of climbing?
Sport climbing is so cool, right? Like I want to see them go up and do.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Have you
too.
seen them run up the thing? It's so cool. And then I really want to see. I love synchronized swimming.
Ooh,
I am obsessed with synchronized swimming.
I love anything that's like dance adjacent, anything that's artsy. Like that's my favorite stuff to watch.
Yeah, so those are like I think the top. Oh, and fencing. Those are the ones that I like definitely wanted to watch. But then for the rest of them, I just like am enjoying flicking through. And so yesterday we happened to click onto archery. It is so perfect as a spectator sport because it's actually really quick. Like. A person goes up. We were watching the team. So it's each has a team of 3. And so like yesterday was the finals and we watched the bronze medal match. So bronze medal match was Mexico versus the Netherlands. Each team has 3 women on it.
Yeah.
And each set has 6 shots. So each archer gets to shoot twice.
Oh,
and
wow.
so the 3 women on the Netherlands shoot.
Yeah.
And they get like 8, 9. And then the 3 Mexican women shot and it was like 9, 10, 10. And you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen then? Yeah. And then the Netherlands women get to shoot again. And then the Mexico women shoot again. And then the combined score. And then they do their next set. And it's the best 3 out of 4 sets, I think.
Yeah.
And it's so fast because each woman just goes up, aims, fires, and it's so satisfying to see it. Like, does it get in or not?
Yeah.
And it's so clear if they did well or not. Because I will say, when I watch gymnastics, I love watching gymnastics, but I don't actually really know if it's good or not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you can tell when someone like Simone Biles is above and beyond.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to guess her score. I'm not going to be like, oh, that was a 15.4.
Oh, I know. When I was listening to the commentators, they're like, oh, that guy, he stepped forward and it was beyond his shoulder length. So that's going to be a 3/10 deduction. And I was like, whoa, how do people know that? Like, that's crazy. So specific.
Yeah, so with the archery, it's very satisfying because it just lands where it lands, and it's either an 8, a 9, a 10, a 2. Like, it's so clear. You're following along very well.
Yeah.
So anyway, archery has been my favorite to watch so far.
Yeah,
the Olympics have only been going since Friday night, really. So it's only been 3 to 4 days. But I've also really loved watching fencing and what was her name? Harvey. Her last name's Harvey. Oh, Eleanor Harvey from Hamilton, Ontario. Ooh. First Canadian, not woman, just Canadian. First Canadian to ever win a medal in fencing.
Whoa. Good job.
She brought home the bronze in foil, which is, there's 3 types of swords in fencing. Épée, saber, and foil. And she competed in foil, and she brought home the bronze. Awesome. And she had really cute hair. So
so a lot of wins for Canada.
Exactly. And I was in the middle of, this can transition us into a reading update, but I was in the middle of a couple things, so I wanted to finish them up, and I still am in the middle of a couple things that I want to finish up. But as you guys know, if you've listened to the pod for any extent of time, I love, and you as well, love a sports book.
Yeah.
And watching the Olympics is, I'm like, oh, I got to get back into reading some sports books. Because I have so many on my shelves that I haven't read. Yeah. I'm like, wait, this is the time. It's the Olympics. We've got to do it right now. So let's shift into a reading update and start maybe with the stuff that we've bought. Do you have a haul?
I have just one book. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's transition into a haul. All right, what did you purchase? What the heck did you get over there?
Well, I actually didn't buy something. I got something in the mail that I had forgot that I requested from the publisher. So Bloomsbury sent me I Want to Die, But I Still Want to Eat Tteokbokki by Baek Sahi. So this is the sequel to the book that we read together. So I wasn't really sure at first if I wanted to read this, but I was like, you know what? I think I am intrigued enough to keep reading because I found the first one to be quite readable. Even though we had a few issues with it, I'm like, you know what? I'm still intrigued, and it'll be a quick read. The font is enormous in these books. You can't really see, but it's
kind
huge.
of comical.
Yes, it's a little bit comical, but I'm excited to have this. And this one, sadly, does not match the first one. As you'll see, this has a dust jacket. The other book does not have a dust jacket. It's just like, and it's shorter.
You're right.
So I took a little video for the B-roll so you can see when you're watching the video, but they don't match, which is really upsetting, but that's okay. So thank you to the publisher for sending this to me though, because I am excited to have it. And it's funny, it weirdly in a way kind of matches the book I'm currently reading. So a little strange, but that's it. That's all I got.
Okay, I also only got one thing. It's actually hilarious because I forgot that I bought this, and then I just got mail, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I opened it up, and I was like, it's almost comical, like how me I am sometimes, and I'm buying this kind of crap, and I don't even remember.
It's true. Now I'm excited to see what it is.
My Dear Mr. M, Letters to G.B. McMillan by Lucy Maud Montgomery.
Whoa, okay. It all makes sense, but I can see why you would forget that. It's kind of the randomest thing ever.
Let's see you know what? I haven't read the bio, I don't think. So let's read it together because I think it's pretty funny.
Okay.
Lucy Maud Montgomery, author of the ever popular Anne of Green Gables, was a keen letter writer. Her letters to George Boyd McMillan over their 39-year friendship show the full range of her interests, from domestic concerns, her cats, and gardening, to her professional literary career as best-selling author. She shares with Macmillan the joys and burdens of her life. She's proud of her 2 sons and excited by new inventions such as motor cars and the talkies. At the same time, she's saddened by the encroachment of progress on her idyllic rural Prince Edward Island. She agonizes over the campaigns of the 2 world wars and never recovers completely from the death of her closest friend. During her friendship with Macmillan, she changes from a confident and cheerful young woman to a disillusioned but courageous old woman. And after her retirement to Journey's End in Toronto, distraught by family problems and depressed by the Second World War, her health and spirits fail. Whoa. We got the whole freaking thing here.
Yeah, damn.
Anyway, it goes on from there. But that sounds perfect, actually. Damn. I'm a genius for ordering this.
How could it get better than that? It's your favorite gal and letters?
Exactly. Cool. I do remember, and I remember kind of oohing and ahhing. I was like, should I get it or not? Because it isn't the back and forth letters. Oh, we don't get to read his letters. And that to me does make or break a letter collection.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to enjoy a dialogue when it's only a log, if you know what I mean. There's no die about it. Monologue. But I still was like, I'm so into letters. I believe this is her only letter collection that's like published as a book, so I had to get it.
Yeah, makes sense. Lots of fun.
Very cute. Fun one. So that's what we got. I want to do everything backwards today.
I love it.
Now let's talk about what we're currently reading.
Well, that's good, because that's the only other book I have to mention. Okay. I went rogue, and I didn't finish The Valley of the Dolls this past week. I went wild. I texted you about this a little bit before I left, but actually, it's time to break the news. I've decided to change the way I read. I just decided this. I don't know how successful it's going to be, but here's what's happening. I want, because you know how one of my goals for this year is follow my heart?
Yes.
I want to actually start implementing that. I've been saying follow my heart, but I've been using it in a different way than I think it should be, which should be all encompassing. It should really mean I read whatever I want to read. I don't let people influence what I want to read. Like, all of those things should be true. And I feel like I have kind of been like limiting myself a little bit. I'm just going to stick to my 24 and 24 TBR. I'm not planning on like overhauling that yet. We'll see how the year goes. There's still time. But as of right now, I'm still sticking to that. But I decided that I want to try and like do a little bit more of the charcuterie board reading, which is what Ariel does, which is just sampling things until like something sticks, I guess, is kind of how it happens, until you decide to finish that block of cheese on the charcuterie board. So I decided, you know what, I am enjoying Valley of the Dolls, but I'm about to go away for the weekend. And I feel like going away, and one of my friends like backpacked me on this. She was like, if you're going away for the weekend, you have to pick a different book to read. Like, you need a special book. And I was like, you're right. Okay. You're right. And so I sent Ariel a picture of 3 books that I was kind of thinking about reading, and you eliminated one, but you didn't choose one for me. So I was then stuck with 2 books. And then my brother was over because he was looking after our cat. So I just went to my brother and Kyle and was like, pick one. And they both picked this one book. So the other book that didn't get picked, I will tell you, is Our Wives Under the Sea. So that was the other book that I was like, this could be the right vibe, water vibe. And also I'm just like really excited for it.
And the one I canceled was Bunny.
Yeah, Cursed
Because
Bunny.
I was like, that's too depressing for the ocean or for like a trip, a weekend away. And also both of your other ones were like oceany sea books.
Yes. And I didn't even really notice that when I picked them. I was just picking the 3 books I was like most excited for in that moment.
Interesting.
But yeah, I kind of teased it. But the book that I did decide to read is Penance by Eliza Clark. And since, I was like, I keep wanting to say camping. It's not camping, but it feels like camping because I'm by a lake. But since I was, doing a little vacation, I didn't really get to read that much because there was people around. We were like, talking with people and playing cards like for hours and hours and hours. But I did manage to read about 40 pages of this. So I feel like I know enough about it to tell you what it's about now. So the book starts out it really throws you into the deep end. So this is set, like, it's kind of telling the story of something that happened in 2016, and it's like from the lens of it's like 2020 or whatever now. And so it's about a journalist who is basically writing a book about a true crime that happened. So the book is fictional, but it's a true crime kind of setup. And so what happened is there were this group of 3 teenage girls who ended up lighting a girl on fire, and she ended up dying. And so that's kind of the setup for the story. But then the story is being told through the lens of this journalist who, at the beginning, he's talking about how he's like written a few books that like didn't really gain traction. So he's kind of like a failed true crime writer a little bit. So he's still trying to like break into it. And he talks about how like there's all these true crime podcasts, but still my books weren't really like getting out there in the way that I hoped they would. And so he's writing this book now, which is kind of like an untold story that nobody really knows about. It was kind of like buried. And it was like in a really random small town in England, like on the coast. It's like this resort town, and there was all these fires that were happening around that time. And so it was kind of all buried basically. And so now he's like telling the story. So I'm still pretty early in, but so far it's really interesting. Like the book starts out with like a transcript from a podcast where people are kind of joking and talking about the crime, and then people are reflecting on that. And there's also like interviews with, the girl's mom, like the girl who was killed. And then I'm sure the journalist will also be talking with like other witnesses and stuff. So it seems like it's going to be an interesting kind of multimedia book, which I always like. I like when there's like different like transcripts and things going on. But I think this is also going to be kind of a keen look at true crime as a concept and as like a thing that's so big in the world right now. Like I think it's because true crime, yes, it's entertainment, but it's kind of awful entertainment. And I'm saying that as a person who does indulge in true crime every now and then. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how I feel about this. Like, is it going to kind of hit me where it hurts, or will it be like, just interesting.
That's fascinating.
So I'm really, and so I'm really intrigued by this so far because it is about like teens. So I feel like it's easy to read in that way, but it's also about a really dark topic. So it's kind of spooky. So it's but it's also kind of summery because it is set by the ocean, and it's like kind of about people, like a town that's known for like its kind of vacationers and stuff. And it's also cool because it is like kind of framed as being like a book that's being written. The journalist, the author of this book, is like really diving deep into like the history of the town and stuff. So it's kind of like you're watching a documentary where it's like, all right, let's get to the meat of everything. And so he's like going all the way back to like when the town was first formed and kind of things that started happening and going wrong, like from, hundreds of years ago and stuff. So it's very interesting. So I'm very early days, but I'm already really enjoying it. So I'm excited.
She wrote Body Parts, right?
Boy Parts, yeah.
Boy Parts. And you liked that a lot.
I loved that book. That was one of my favorite books I read last year. So I was highly anticipating this one. And also she has a short story collection coming out this fall. So she's kind of on fire right now.
Oh,
yeah.
My God.
Sorry, bad choice of words. There's so many reasons. Oh, that's dark.
I have a question for you that's completely unrelated to that. What card games were you playing? Because actually, it's kind of funny that you were getting into cards because CJ, my brother and our editor, has really been getting into cards. Ooh. And he's been gifting slowly, but he's been gifting everyone a special pack of cards. Oh my God. And I was gifted my pack of cards a couple of weeks ago, or like a week ago, and it's like this beautiful wildflowers backing, wow. And it comes in a little tin. They're beautiful.
That's so nice.
So everyone's slowly getting a pack of cards, and we're like all learning games, and like we just learned how to play Rummy, which I know is a very simple, straightforward game, but we just didn't grow up playing that one, and so we just learned that one. I really like that one. So I'm just curious, what games were you playing?
No, that's fun, actually. That's a great question, and it's funny that you mentioned Rummy, because the game that we were playing apparently is kind of like Rummy. Like, I also don't know how to play Rummy. I learned it once, but I've totally forgotten. I've also learned like multiple different kinds. Like, there's Nanaimo Rummy, which is like, Nanaimo is a place on Vancouver Island. We have friends that live there, and so growing up, they like taught us Nanaimo Rummy, which is different from Gin Rummy, and I'm like, I don't understand what all these different rummies are, but
I have to now interrupt that. Do you like Nanaimo bars?
I love Nanaimo bars.
I do too.
They're
and
so
it turns
sweet,
out they're Canadian, which I guess makes sense.
I grew up eating them. Every time I went on a ferry, I was like, Nanaimo bar.
Oh, that's funny.
Because we were always going to Nanaimo, so it
perfect. I just grew up having them at the grocery store.
Yeah, that makes sense. My mom used to make them too.
They're so good. So Nanaimo bars are like a layer of chocolatey coconut crustiness at the bottom. And then the next layer is, I mean, what is it?
It's like a custard of some kind, but it's delicious custard. Like, I don't like custard, so it's almost more like an icing. I would say it's like somewhere between an icing and a custard.
I agree with that. It's hard to know.
It doesn't taste yellow, though. It's not lemon or anything like that.
No, it doesn't taste yellow, but it just tastes like really rich, beautiful cream, I guess. And then the top layer is like a beautiful milk chocolate fudge type layer. Oh,
yeah.
Whenever I see Nanaimo bars at a party, I'm like, woo!
Yeah, you know how to party. Yeah, they're so good. Have you ever had a reverse Nanaimo bar? Where it's like white chocolate instead of chocolate, and then like the middle layer is like a chocolate fudge or mousse or whatever?
No, I have not.
It's dangerously good. I highly recommend it.
Okay, anyways. What card game are you playing?
Cards, yes. So we just played one game. Kyle's parents taught us a game. They apparently have these two games that they play, 2500 and Swoosh. We did not play Swoosh, so I don't know what that is. But apparently you shuffle on the table. That's part of the game. So I'm like, that's interesting. Because 2500, the game we played, is basically like a rummy style game where like everybody has a certain hand of cards and you're trying to get rid of your cards. You're trying to put them down on the table, and whoever gets rid of their cards first like ends the round. And whatever you have on the table gets you points, but whatever's in your hand takes points away. So you can get points or you can lose points. And so it was really fun to play. And like everybody gets a different amount of cards. One of the random cards is wild. Every turn it changes. Like, there's a lot of rules. So it was kind of like, whoa, this is crazy. But once you get into it and get the hang of it, it's really fun. So I don't know if that's like a universal game that people know of, but it's called 2500. And you play it with 3 decks of cards with all the 2s taken out. Because you can't do anything with just 2 cards. Like, you can't do a run with 2 things, right? Because that's part of the game. Anyway, it's too much to explain, but it's a really fun game. And so we played it until like 1:30 in the morning the first night. Like, we stayed up late.
That's so fun.
Yeah, like we played it it was probably about 4 or 5 hours. We just kept going. And then we played it the next night too, and we just like kept on going. We're like getting eaten alive by bugs, but we're like, we have to keep playing.
That sounds exactly like a camping vacation.
Exactly.
I love it.
It was basically camping. Like, their living situation is kind of like camping adjacent. And so like they have an outdoor living area where we went and sat, but it was very fun. Yeah, we had a good time.
That's awesome. I love that so much. Okay, I guess I'll talk about what I'm currently reading. It's a weird little pile of things I got going on here.
I'm so intrigued.
I honestly don't even know what the hell's going on.
Oh.
Okay. Because I'm suddenly reading Life Ceremony by Sayaka Murata.
That is so random. I forgot I gave you that. I was like, why do you even have that book?
Isn't that
Who
so
did this
funny?
To you?
Did you sign this one for me? I don't think
I did. It was funny because what happened, if people might remember back when I got that book, I bought it, and then like the next week I was gifted it at my like, what is that? Bridal shower? I was gonna say bachelorette party. I did not have one of those. But yeah, my bridal shower, one of my friends got it for me, and she like wrote in it. So I was like, oh, well, I can't return this. Ariel's here. Like, do you just want to have this one? My gift to you. So yeah, I don't think I signed it though. I forgot.
No, I don't think that you did, but that's okay. I'm still very excited about it. Okay, so basically what happened was it was late at night, and I was scrolling on my phone.
Damn.
And I was reading Threads.
Oh
my
God. You went to a dark
and
place.
This is where I was seeing all of this Olympics negativity, which I just listen. There's like valid Olympics criticism about like corruption and like athletes, like the way they were treated and
100%.
stuff like that. Like I understand
but
that,
just as a show.
Yeah, but when it's just people who are like, that Olympic opening ceremony was ridiculous, and I'm like, guys, what are you talking about? Of all the things,
could you do any better?
Like, exactly. Like, what are you suggesting? Like, do you have any idea how complicated that would have been to pull off? What they had to do, like, we don't know what the restrictions were, what their budget was, what their, like, time limit was, what roads were they able to, we have complicated.
It's so difficult to do.
They did something fun. It's always going to be different. Who cares? Anyways, so I was like, what is going on? Why am I on this dumb app? Why am I reading all this negativity that makes me upset and frustrated? I was like, I should just read something on my phone. Yeah. So I switched to the Libby app, and the only thing that I had signed out is the Agatha Christie audiobook that I'm reading and still loving. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to listen to an audiobook. Connor's right there. So I need to read something. Yeah. And so I just started doing the thing that I'm sure so many of us do, where I'm like randomly typing in names to see what's available now. Yeah. And I was like, okay, maybe something Asian translated, because those are always fun. Yeah. And I'm like looking up different names. And then this one came up. And I was like, I could read the first story.
Yeah, why not?
Wow. It's a disturbing story.
What's the first one called again? I'll probably remember it.
I'll just tell people what it is as well, but it's called A First-Rate Material. And
the skin one?
Yeah. So this is basically, I guess it's not post-apocalyptic. It's not post-apocalyptic. It's like alternate future.
Yeah, it's like something that could happen, shouldn't, but could.
A speculative fiction.
Yeah, there you go.
It is. So basically the idea in this story is that we've gotten to a point in society where somehow it's become normalized to reuse human components after people die as materials. So she's wearing a sweater at the beginning that all of her friends are like, oh my God, it's beautiful. And it's made out of human hair. Yeah. And so the idea is like, once you've died, all of your different elements, if you choose to, like there does seem to be the suspension of disbelief is that there's no like mistreatment here. It is like an honor and people want to be able to do this, and they're like, please continue to use my pieces.
Yeah, it's like so their body's not being wasted after death and stuff. It's kind of like organ donation mixed with donating your body to science. Like it's somewhere in that realm, so it's not completely crazy.
No, it's not completely crazy. I mean, it is completely crazy, but it's not completely crazy. And it's like furniture made out of human bones and like it is it's grotesque. Yeah. And it's really interesting though, because like she the main character is like, I don't really see the difference between this and like using animal parts. Yeah. And her whereas her fiance is like, this is disgusting. You like shouldn't wear that sweater. Like this is so like gross. Mm-hmm. And so it's about that tension about somebody who's an outsider on this perspective. Yeah. And as a reader, it really makes you super uncomfortable because it is grotesque. It is disgusting. You're like reading about these like different items and you're like, that is just so gross. But then you're like, why do I feel that? Yeah. I think it was actually a fantastic story.
Yeah, it's such a good opening story because it's like,
I hated it, but I
like it really like sets you up for the rest of the book, because that is like what it is. Like a lot of her stories are grotesque and are like I wouldn't want to compare her to Ottessa Moshfegh because I think she's in a totally different realm, but she is like on that same level of like, you don't know what you're going to get with each story. Like it could go totally weird and totally sideways and totally gross, or maybe not.
So that's going to be my phone book. Okay. You know, like that's what's going to be on my phone. Yeah. But actually I'm going to put it on my e-reader because there's another thing I need to read on my e-reader that I'm very excited to mention today that I'm going to be starting right now, like tonight. And it is Half-Ass Manifesto by Lena Norms. That's right. So this book doesn't come out till December. I don't remember the date. December 21st? That might be wrong. But it comes out in December so that it's ready for January. So that everyone can get it over Christmas time and you can read it as a book that kind of like motivates you to do a bunch of cool stuff in the new year. I'm so excited to read this. I mean, I have read big sections of it already because, as you know, like, Lena's one of my best friends. Yeah. And so I've been lucky enough to be behind the scenes a little bit of this book. And she finished the draft of it and was like, it's basically ready. And so now I need to read it amongst other people. Yeah. Lots of people are reading it to kind of give her this first wave of feedback from people that aren't her editors and stuff. And so I'm so excited to read it. It is so easy to read, you guys, because it's literally Lena. I've never met anyone whose voice is so distinct in her writing. Yeah. It's just, you can just imagine Lena reading it to you. It's incredible. That's awesome. So I'm so excited to read it, like, beginning to end as a full book. Yeah. And I need to read it in the next few days because she told me I have to tell her what I think by the end of July. And so
blast off.
Today's July 29th. Yeah. I better get going. So that's what I'm in the middle of. Now let's talk about what I guess I finished.
I finished nothing. I'm in the middle of 2 books and I'm carefree.
All right. I read 3 things.
Oh my God.
The first one is 2 Week Wait by Luke Jackson, Kelly Jackson, and Mara Wilde. Dr. Luke Jackson is an author, teacher, and researcher based in Melbourne, Australia. Kelly Jackson is a teacher and educational writer. She and her husband, Luke, began their own IVF journey in 2011 and are now parents of 2 daughters. 2 Week Wait, an IVF story, is their first novel. Mara Wilde lives and works in Hamburg, Germany as a freelance illustrator and animator, mostly doing multimedia artwork. She met Luke while studying abroad in Melbourne, taking one of his classes. So this is a graphic novel that I bought, I'm pretty certain, at Venus Envy, that shop. Did I take you there?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think I knew about it when you came to visit.
Yeah, we only went to a few bookstores. Like, we went to Bookmark and a couple of others in Lunenburg.
Yeah, this one was in Halifax. Okay. And it's so funny just because when you live your life, you think certain things are normal because you've lived in certain places. And there's just been a really funny frequency bias in my life where I did my master's in Ottawa. So I lived in Ottawa for a few years. Love Ottawa. Anyways, I lived in Ottawa for a few years. And there's a store there called Venus Envy. And it's like a bookshop, mainly queer books, and a sex shop. So it's like very sex positive, like everything. And I was like, this is such a cool and unique shop. Love it. But I didn't think it was like rare because there it was in Ottawa. And then I moved to Halifax and there was another sex and bookshop, a very sex positive, very like just very queer friendly and run by queer staff and everything. It was like a beautiful shop. And I was like, yeah, classic. These are a normal thing. And then I looked it up and it's just this one person, this one owner that has these 2 shops in Ottawa and Halifax.
I've never seen a store like that, so it's definitely a niche.
Apparently not a thing, but I recommend it. It's a really great thing because it's just super cool to go into a shop that's so like sex positive and super open about those types of topics. And like there's a whole shelf about periods and like that awesome. Kind of health education and all sorts of intersectionality. Anyway, it's a cool shop and I love whenever someone visits me taking them to that shop because
I want to go there.
It's a good one. So I'll definitely take you there. But anyways, I got this graphic novel there, and it's about this couple's journey with IVF. I don't know what percentage of this is kind of like autobiographical versus made up. I can't quite tell because the characters' names are not the same as the author's names. So I'm like, okay, they're clearly distancing themselves somehow. Yeah, and then also at the end, it says, we would like to acknowledge the honesty, generosity, and courage of the couples and individuals who agreed to be interviewed as we conducted research for this book. We hope we have done your stories justice. We would also like to thank our family for their support and our daughters, Greta and Cleo, for their inspiration. So clearly they went through their own IVF journey, but also they interviewed lots of other people to kind of get the idea. This was so good. This was so good. I want to say that the cover is letting them all down. This cover, like the art is beautiful. So it's not that the illustrator, I really love the artwork. I don't think that the illustrator like was a bad choice. She's fantastic.
Just a weird panel almost. It's like just a weird choice.
Yeah, it's just not a great cover when I think about, everything that happened in this story. And I think maybe I feel like the color palette of the illustrations works really well in the book, but on the cover it looks really washed out.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't really grab you. And sorry, I didn't really hear. Did you say the font is kind of a weird choice?
No, but yeah, I guess it is too.
Why did I think I heard you say that?
You just heard a whole sentence I didn't say.
Because I'm like, I totally agree with you. The
little whisper in your ear told you something.
The fonts are just sort of like, they are kind of Comic Sans-y on the front here. And that's a word that's sentence, so you don't want to say it loud. Huh?
Yeah.
But please, if you are at all interested in reading about IVF, I super recommend this. I don't think I've really read anything about IVF. I've definitely watched videos about it. I've known people that have gone through it. I've seen them kind of talk about it online and other people talk about it online and stuff. So I'm like aware of it, but I've never read a book about IVF.
Right.
It was very stressful. It was a very stressful read. So Brenda Thumler, if you're listening to this, I'm always thinking like stressful read, Brenda will like it.
So true.
Very stressful read, very emotional read, but not in like an over the top way, just in a way where you're just like, wow, like this is so emotional. Like there's just so many ups and downs, and the journey really is this couple that decides they want to have children. And then after a year of trying naturally, they realize, like, I think something might be going on. So then they start looking into testing and figuring out, like, what could be going on. Is there something medically that we can look into? And they realize that something is going on. And so they decide to try IVF. And it's just, like, awful. It's just awful. Yeah. The like, waiting, you have to wait 2 weeks. That's why it's called 2 week wait, which I also don't think is a good name, because that is an interesting part of the book, that you have to wait 2 weeks to even see if the IVF worked or whatever. Yeah. But it's not really like the point of the book is not the majority of the book isn't set during those 2 weeks or anything. So I don't really get why they called it that. But yeah, I thought it was fantastic. And I thought that it really shared a story and a perspective that I didn't know much about. Which, when you read books like this, I think is the whole thing.
Yeah, totally.
It's the whole thing. It was fantastic. I felt like I really learned something that I didn't know that much about before. And yeah, anyway, it was very moving, and I really enjoyed it. So I recommend 2 week wait.
Awesome.
Okay, up next I read Felicity by Miss Mary Oliver. Born in a small town in Ohio, Mary Oliver published her first book of poetry in 1963 at the age of 28. Over the course of her long career, she's received numerous awards, and her fourth book, American Primitive, won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry in 1984. Felicity was published in 2015, and Mary Oliver passed in 2019. So, I love Mary Oliver.
Yep.
Obsessed. Okay, so I picked out one that I wanted to read to you.
Okay.
It was about a cricket. Hold on.
New favorite poem incoming.
Here we go. It's called Nothing is Too Small Not to Be Wondered About. The cricket doesn't wonder if there's a heaven, or if there is, if there's room for him. It's fall. Romance is over. Still he sings. If he can, he enters a house, through the tiniest crack under the door. Then the house grows colder. He sings slower and slower, then nothing. This must mean something. I don't know what. But certainly it doesn't mean he hasn't been an excellent cricket all his life. That's a nice poem.
Yeah. I don't like it as much as the orange, but that was good.
I knew that you wouldn't. And do you remember the snake one I read you?
Oh, that one was great.
That was an incredible
Was that her as well?
poem.
Or was that a different one?
Yeah, that's Mary Oliver.
Nice.
I will say, this is my least favorite collection of her collections that I've read. I didn't find as many gems.
Yeah.
In fact, I kind of am like, is there another poem that I'd even read out? There was this one. I'll read Jess Storage, damn it.
Let's hear it.
Actually, yes. Okay. I remember I did check this one off because I was like, I want to read her the cricket one because it's kind of like the snake one. But this one, I was like, this got a real Raeleen theme going on. You'll see.
I'm listening.
It's called Storage. When I moved from one house to another, there were many things I had no room for. What does one do? I rented a storage space and filled it. Years passed. Occasionally I went there and looked in, but nothing happened. Not a single twinge of the heart. As I grew older, the things I cared about grew fewer, but were more important. So one day I undid the lock and called the trash man. He took everything. I felt like the little donkey when his burden is finally lifted. Things! Burn them! Burn them. Make a beautiful fire. More room in your heart for love. For the trees. For the birds who own nothing. The reason they can fly.
I can
see it's a minimalist poem.
I know, I was just thinking, I'm like, get rid of that storage unit. Why do you have a storage unit full of crap? But I'm happy that it had a good ending.
Burn them. Burn them.
Burn it all. I love that the trash man came. He took everything.
Yeah, so actually those were my 2 favorite poems from the collection. I don't know if people remember, I actually started reading this one years ago and I never finished it.
I don't remember.
And so I kind of, like, I remember that was a thing, but I didn't really remember how far I'd gotten or anything, so I just restarted the whole thing. And it was funny seeing the ones that I'd bookmarked, because some of them are like, I was like, I agree, that's a good one. But then some of them I'm like, why did I bookmark that? I wonder what I was thinking.
Young Ariel.
Young Ariel was like, saw something meaningful there that older Ariel didn't see, which is interesting. Middling. This is just not her strongest stuff, and that's okay.
Do you have more of her collection still to read?
Yes, I do. I have one called Dog Songs.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think I've read Devotions by her, actually.
Okay.
A lot of her I've read a lot of the poems in there, but I haven't actually read Devotions, so I need to read that one.
Nice.
I think I guess there's a whole thing in here. It's kind of tricky as well, because a lot of the poems have been put into different collections.
I was just going to ask that, yeah.
So I don't
cross
tricky.
Across different books.
But I do want to read them all. She's great.
Nice.
Okay. The other one I read is another poetry collection, God, I Feel Modern Tonight by Catherine Cohen. Catherine Cohen is best known for her hit Netflix comedy special, The Twist. She's gorgeous. The same live show won her the coveted title of Best Newcomer at the Edinburgh Comedy Festival in 2019. She can currently be seen in the Paramount Plus feature film At Midnight, and later this summer in the upcoming Hulu series While You Were Breeding. Her first book, entitled God, I Feel Modern Tonight, was published in 2021 by Knopf. So this is kind of funny because I've had this on my shelf for a while. Yeah. But I kind of forgot it was there, and then I had read Felicity by Mary Oliver. I was like, that was really fun. I miss reading poetry. I should read something like the opposite of Mary Oliver.
Yeah.
Like, I should read, because Mary Oliver is very nature focused, and all of her poems are about nature. They're like, it's so rare if a tree doesn't enter the picture there. And this one I remember was like all about modern life, and like they all really feel like they're written on her iPhone, which is not a negative at all. It just feels like she smashed these out on her iPhone as a first draft. And I think these were sent to me. This collection, I have the ARC version, and I think it was published in 2021. So I would have been sent it at some point in 2021 or 2020. Okay. Yeah, weird that so much time passed.
Right?
I always feel bad when that happens, because I'm like, should I have been sent the ARC? This is why I basically don't say yes to any ARCs anymore, because I'm like, I cannot promise you that I'm going to read that when you sent it to me. So I really don't ever accept ARCs. I only really accept finished books now, because I'm like, I can promote that and just mention it, and if I didn't read it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's no time limit.
Yeah. Also, just as a little behind the scenes, poke it behind the curtain here. When publishers send you a book for review, there is actually no obligation of review. So you don't actually have to. Yeah. You want to, because you're like grateful to them for sending you a thing. But there is no obligation.
Man, I wish I had known that as a teenager when I got my first box of books. Oh my God, I want to say probably almost 10 books. And I was like, this is what I'm reading for the next month. I can't do anything else.
For the rest of time. Yeah, no. I feel like that was such murky waters at the beginning when they started sending books to teenagers. I mean, that's so new, right? Yeah. Like, it used to just be sending them to people that wrote articles in...
Right. Like newspapers or magazines or whatever.
Bloggers as well, but most bloggers weren't teenagers. And so when they started sending it to YouTubers, like sending ARCs to YouTubers, I don't think anyone really knew what was going on. But it's very fascinating. What do I think about this one? When I was looking at her bio on her website, like, which is most of what I read there, it says features her collection of comedic poetry. So she is going to try and make her poetry funny.
Yeah.
Like, that is the point of the poetry, is for it to be funny.
Right.
So knowing that and having that lens, I'm like, okay, you did that. The poems were funny.
Yeah.
And they're very explicit. Like, again, I wanted to read some of them, but like most of them are very inappropriate and I don't want to read them out loud.
Yeah.
Here's one called, oh, no, you see, I literally can't say that one. I thought that one was safe and it is not. This one's called It's Worse Than I Thought. Street signs don't know about you. The woman from Belgium putting her hair up in a ponytail doesn't know about you. The new Starbucks on 15th and 9th sells pizza. Sorry, flatbreads, beanies, tumblers? There's an espresso station, a full-service bar, gender-neutral bathrooms with slanted sinks, and I am putting out a swear word there, I'm sorry, that don't know about you, and everyone in this Starbucks is acting like my being in this Starbucks isn't the craziest thing in the world, acting like today has anything to do with not being the day you leave. I call you wine drunk and humid, glowing, night bright, and wanting you to respect my time. Telling myself I'm telling, not begging, I'm a communicator, I'm mature. I'm buying kettle chips and wheat beer with a credit card. There's nothing wrong with feeling on fire. If it's embarrassing, it's probably good. That's definitely not the funniest. There's some really funny stuff, but they're all so inappropriate that I don't want to read them.
I'm like, I want to read that when next time I come over. I'm like, maybe I should read some of those poems. Save it for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's super, super short. They're very quick to read. I think this one was okay to read out loud. Let's give it a shot. Poem I wrote after you told me your ex is actually really cool is the name of the poem.
Okay.
And this was not one that I marked. I don't think this was not a favorite of mine, but no one talks about this. But in 2013, I inserted a tampon in the back seat of a car on my way to a Nickelback concert. I said I'd go to the concert because my friend Ted asked me to. Turns out I'm addicted to male attention, even when it's platonic. I don't like Nickelback. I only like songs that sound like surfing. But then the lyrics are like, I want to die. I wish I were smart instead of on my phone. So that actually gives the tone of the book a lot better.
Yeah, just a little chaotic, but, the inner mind that a lot of us have.
Yes, very chaotic, and I think very relatable.
Yeah.
Very, like, young woman living in a city, very busy, rushing around, seeing things are happening to her, very jealous of things. Like, that is the vibe, and it is a fun vibe, but basically I feel like she did such a good job at that thing, but then nothing went deeper.
Right.
Like, I didn't feel like the poems pushed anything ahead. I didn't feel like there was like how do I put this? Like an elegance or grace there that like elevates these poems into being more than funny. Yeah. They're funny.
Yeah, totally.
They're funny and they're relatable, but I'm not like, and it hits home.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Or it's the most beautiful writing you've ever read, or like it doesn't have that thing that elevates it.
Which is funny because there's like, it's very beat poet. Like she's obviously trying to go for a beat poet thing, which is really fun. Like Allen Ginsberg or who's the other one I'm thinking of? Frank O'Hara, lunch poems. Like, there's this thing of, like, talking really fast and saying all the things that you're seeing, and it's New York, and because this is a very New York book. It's New York, and there's so much going on, and everything is exciting, and life is busy, and life is trash, and everyone's humid and sticky and hot, and you're like, right. But with those I mean, it's really unfair to compare her to them because they're literally some of the greatest poets of all time. But like with those poems, they are doing that thing where I'm like, they're excelling it forward into something beyond just, I'm seeing these things and they're interesting. You're like, why are they interesting though? Right. Like, what is the thing that's pushing it to that next level? So I enjoyed it. And I would probably, like, if she released another collection, I actually would read it because it was funny and interesting. And I feel like maybe she could keep pushing it. It's her debut
This is her
collection.
debut, right? So give her some time to cook.
Exactly. And there you have it. That's what I read.
Wow. Congratulations.
Okay.
So you're pushing ahead now. You're catching up, I think, on your goal, yeah?
Yeah. And so I did some math. This is so funny. I really had a fight with Siri on my phone.
Siri never gives me the answers I want. Just putting that out there.
She is so dumb. It's really frustrating because she could be very helpful and she's just extremely not helpful.
I know. I'm always like, hey, Siri, like, show me this thing. And then my Siri's a boy. He'll be like, okay, here's this on the internet. And I'm like, that's not what I asked for, but okay.
At all. So basically I said, hey, Siri, No, I didn't. I just like I don't have Hey Siri turned on, but like I hold the button and then it activates and I'm like, how many weeks are left in the year? And she's like, it was 30 weeks. And I'm like, that can't be right because
we're in the second half of the year already.
Yeah, we're in the second half of the year, but also the way that she said it was 30 weeks.
It was
like,
months.
What do you think I'm asking? And so then I asked her again and I worded it slightly differently and I worded it slightly differently and she just would not give me what I'm looking for. And so I found the hack. I was like, how many weeks left until 2025?
Yeah.
And so that was how she finally was able to answer that it's 22 weeks.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. So I forget. At that time, I didn't have my spreadsheet in front of me. So I was like, I feel like I still had like, let's say it's 65 or 70 books to go.
Yeah.
70 divided by 22 equals 3.18.
Okay.
So I have to read about 3 books a week. Last week I read 4. This week I read 3.
Yeah, you can do it.
So I just have to keep doing that. And I'll be fine.
Luckily you have a lot of short books. You're probably the person with the most short books on their shelves that I've ever known.
It's so true. I love short books.
Do you have a lot of poetry still unread?
I do.
That's good.
It's yeah, so I feel like between poetry and graphic novels, I can like use those as my like 2 quick books a week, and then I can read like another novel or something.
Yeah, and you've got like you're reading a few kind of slower books, but like eventually you'll finish those, so those will add to the tally down the road.
Yeah, exactly. God,
I think you've got this. I'm just as a little update for me. I'm currently 3 books behind on my like goal to read 50 books is how I've been tracking it. So as long as I'm behind or on track, then I'm good. I just don't want to get ahead because then I'd be in the red for me. I don't want to go over 50. Funny. So as of right now, I'm 3 books behind, which feels pretty good. Gives me room to play.
Perfect. That's perfect. All right. Thank you very much to everyone for listening to this podcast or watching it. Whatever the heck you did, you made it all the way to the end. That's pretty cool. We are now going to go record our Patreon mini podcast, the question vase today, right?
You got it.
Where we answer people's questions. And again, a little plug for our incredible, exciting new audiobook read by Raeleen LeMay. Only 3 hours and 32 minutes long, if you're into that. So a quick listen, get your reading goals up, huh?
Yeah, classic.
And that's all for now, I suppose. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.